So it's getting deadly serious. I'm investigating not one, but two murders. Let's go out and see what we can find. So at our first location, I can see there's a few feathers scattered about. There's about half a dozen here. So we're going to bag those up, take them away as evidence, see what we can find. Now this is altogether more serious. There are feathers all over the place. I mean, I can't even count them. And then scattered across is all this downy feathers, and there's another big patch of feathers over there. So a lot has been going on. I think we're going to need a bigger bag. Well, I'm joined today by Mark Oughton, who's our kind of go-to guy in the office for bird inquiries. I think that's fair to say. You've had quite a history even before the trust, haven't you?
Love birds, been involved with birds for a long time. My mum actually thinks that when I was 4 years old, I had a pair of binoculars around my neck. So, I've been doing a lot of bird watching.
So I sent you some photographs, and the first thing we've got to work out is what's the identity of the victim. So have you got any ideas?
I think it's a fairly common victim that we'll see around. There's some giveaway clues there. There's some white on some of the feathers. Some of the under feathers will be fairly light anyway, but one of the giveaway feathers there is the broad, round feathers. That's the tail feather, fairly long, and there's three different colours on there. And there's a very dark colour at the end of the feather, almost a lighter shade of grey, and then a mid shade of grey that would go up into the rump of this bird. I would suggest this is possibly a wood pigeon. I would think that's what it is.
That's quite likely because we have quite a few wood pigeons in and around the fields at the back, and they come into the garden all the time and they feed on the ground. So yeah, we do see them a lot. I mean, there's a lot of feathers there, but do birds lose their feathers normally? Because you often see feathers lying around in the countryside.
Birds will lose feathers for a variety of reasons. One of the main reasons is obviously birds molt, and they molt they molt because they have a pretty tough year. So they've been nest building, fighting each other in courtship, mating, raising young and feeding those chicks. So they have a very busy year. So sometimes we need a bit of pampering. They actually shed their feathers, and they'll do that fairly slowly after the breeding season. But they'll also do that before or after migration as well. But molt is very expensive for them with regards to energy. It takes a lot of effort for birds to molt. So they do it fairly slowly, and some birds will. Some of the bigger birds will molt over a number of years. If you think of gulls, some of them are fairly brown, and then you'll get your big white and grey gulls. Now they take sort of 4 years to reach maturity, and they'll shed feathers slowly because, as I say, it's quite an expensive thing for them to do.
So those photographs there, do they look like a bird that's just molted?
That's a lot of feathers.
Okay,
that'd be one very bald-looking bird flying around, I would say.
Obviously there's some predators out there that will take, wood pigeons. I think, sort of things like foxes and what have you. But are there any birds that could take something that large?
A kestrel wouldn't. They tend to feed on mammals. You'd also probably have buzzards in the area. They may take a pigeon, but that pigeon would have to be pretty sick already for a buzzard to take that.
Right.
They don't tend to take them. Then you'd have a peregrine that would take a dove or a pigeon. But if it's around your garden, it's fairly unlikely. It's not the kind of habitat I'd expect to see a peregrine in. A common bird of prey in the UK, the sparrowhawk, which has seen amazing recoveries. A large female would take a wood pigeon.
Yeah, and I caught a flash of a sparrowhawk on one of my trail cameras that I had set up the other day. It went through really quickly.
It would have to be a large female. A smaller male bird, a wood pigeon would be a pretty big target for that. Right. They will take collared doves, but they're slightly smaller collared doves.
Okay, well, thanks ever so much for that, Mark. I will let you get back to your work because you're trying to rescue your garden with your DIY SOS Garden Wildlife series, aren't you?
It needs rescuing, but I'm getting there.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks a lot, and I'll see you soon.
Great, Darren. Thank you.
Yeah, bye. So I think we can say case solved as far as the victim goes. It was a wood pigeon, and hold on a second. Hello? Another one? Okay, I'll be there. I haven't got time to walk that far. Essex Wildlife Trust, 1 to be mupped. Oh my goodness. What have we got here? So as Mark said, you know, it takes a lot of energy for a bird to replace feathers, and this is no molt. There are feathers scattered everywhere of all shapes and sizes. There's even bits of the bone from the wing here. I think we can safely say this isn't a molt. So we've got 3 bags of evidence here. We already know from Mark that these are wood pigeon feathers. That's site A and site B. And what about these? Well, I mean, this is unmistakably a pheasant. The tail feathers are really, really long and very distinctively coloured. And there are in fact a lot of very distinctive coloured smaller feathers as well, more tail feathers. So even the mammal detective can work out what bird this is, so that's fine. We've got pheasant there. They are beautifully marked, these feathers, that have absolutely glorious colours to them. So what can we say about the murderer? This is site A, and if we take a close look at these feathers and we look at the quill's what we really need to be looking at. So we look at the quill. The quill's undamaged on these, so these feathers are probably just the result of 2 wood pigeons having a bit of a scrap, or it could be that they've molted out quite naturally. This one, however, is different. So this is the second one from the garden, and we can see, if we look very carefully, that all these quills are sort of damaged. They're almost like they've been nipped or bent, and that's a sure sign that a bird of prey has taken this one, because they will pluck the bird and they'll grab the quill with their beak and just pull it out and literally pluck it out. So I think we're looking at the sparrowhawk for this one. The buzzards just don't come into our garden. So we've got natural causes, bird of prey, probably a sparrowhawk. But what about the pheasant? When we look closer at this one, we can see that, especially on this wing here, the whole thing has basically been bitten through. That is not the result of a bird attack. This is a mammal, and I think we can easily say that this is a fox, because other mammals will take feathers out and they literally bite through them in the way that a fox does, but they'll only bite through one at a time. So something like a stoat would tend to bite one feather out at a time. So I think we can say case solved. We've got natural causes, bird of prey with the bent or damaged quill, and the mammal, in this case a fox, with the quills that have been completely bitten through. Right, so that's the end of this case, and in fact the end of this season, and I'll be back in a couple of weeks with a new set of mysteries and crimes to solve. See you then.